that made Come Hell or High Water?
It was Keith.
Keith.
Yeah,
and that movie is basically all about body surfing.
It's all about body surfing mainly, yeah. They have a couple hand plane clips, in it,
but just body surfing as a whole, and this is a tool that anyone can body surf, but this is going to get you in a lot more unique areas. It gives the common man a tool to actually body surf, whereas there's a lot of great guys, torpedo men, that are really good body surfers on their own. Mark Cunningham, who's part SEAL,
don't need a hand plane, but some of them use them. But the common guy who surfs all the time, who has their experience of basically trying to catch a wave and getting into the beach to get their board because they lost it, they can only get up on a wave, and stay in the whitewater, pretty much go in. They might be on the face of the wave for a half a second, if that. But with a hand plane, you can get up and plane on a wave for, I know guys, a couple 100 yards in mainland Mexico, just flying down the line. So it is a tool, to help people body surf better and have fun, get out in the water. Mainly, that's the whole thing, is getting out in the water and having fun.
And it seems like it's such a great extension of all this stuff that's happening at the show from all the different shapes that all summer I saw kids, grown men out there with GoPros and all different hand planes, and that was what they wanted to do.
Well, I think a lot of it, I always tell people that I've had a lot of bad sessions surfing, just like all of us. We have these great expectations with surfing. We're going to go out, we're going to get these great waves, we're going to do this, we're going to do that.
We all rip in our minds.
Exactly. So we all have these expectations before we ever paddle out. But for some reason, when you go out and you body surf or you're hand plane, you don't have those expectations. And all of a sudden, you're just having fun. You're pulling into barrels, you're getting 30 barrels a day. Yeah, you might not come out of any, but you're pulling in, you're getting that view. And almost anybody can learn to get that view pretty quickly.
Well, Gary, knowing there's a lot of people watching right now, we could probably go on and on all day about body surfing because we all love it. Whether you consider yourself a body surfer or not, we've all lost our surfboard and had to body surf in, so we know that feeling. Explain to us a little bit about the products, because I was over at your booth prior to the show today, checking out, and you have smaller ones, longer ones, different bottoms. Explain to us a little bit about.
This is probably our best seller right now. It used to be our bigger one, which is about 16 inches long, has a single concave, works well in pretty much everything. But when you have a single concave and a flat bottom, when you get into hollower waves, they tend to side slip down the wave. So basically, you're trying to hold a high line to get out of that barrel or to drive down into the barrel as long as you can. But then your hand plane starts to side slip. So about a year and a half ago, I started coming out with these really deep channels. And what they do is they help lock you into that face of the wave, so you're not side slipping down the face of the wave. And it's actually amazing. I think when I came out with this model, the short and fat, I went from pulling into barrels all the time and never coming out, to actually coming out of barrels and coming out of like half of them. Days at certain breaks, I'm like, wow, I'm like getting barrel and I'm coming out. And nowadays, if I go body surfing, I don't want to just pull in. I want to come out just like surfing. You know?
Are you surfing anymore? Are you just hand planing all the time?
No, I surf. I surf at least 50 to 75%. Okay. I surf more than I hand plane.
And where's your best R&D spot for the planes? Is
Can't
it a
tell
secret
us?
spot?
All right, you don't have to. It's okay, Gary.
No, I wouldn't get beat up, but Orange County is, I would say, for body surfing, and I'm not from Orange County, I'm from North San Diego County, or I live in North San Diego County. I would say the stretch of beach from San Clemente, through Huntington, it's all beach breaks, and there is some really good ones. And a lot of them, my favorite place has been in Surfer Magazine a million times, but it's just a short wedgie beach break, and it's perfect for hand planing.
Well, if I'm a young kid online right now, or an older guy for that matter, and I want to get one of these, I just want to, go out at my local break. I'm not going to pipe. I'm not going to the wedge. What do I want to get?
I would say, if you were to go with my brand, there's two models.
That's where I'm going, because you're the man.
You're going to my brand. All right. Then I would either, if I was going to do more beach breaks, I would probably do this model, which is a short and fat. If I was going to be doing more slopey reef breaks that aren't super hollow, that I want more planing, or if they're a weaker break, then I would just go with the standard Brownfish model, which is, about this long and it has a fishtail. Single concave, planes really well. And I have friends, Casey Curtis, he basically has a Brownfish for the small days, and then we have another model that's smaller than this. It's called the Hobbit. It's about that big and about that wide for places like Wedge and Pipeline and stuff. And he has a Brownfish, and then he has a Hobbit, and he goes back and forth depending on the conditions. So people don't necessarily just have, when I first started making these, I thought, oh, there's only one model, they're just gonna want one, and they're never gonna want another one again. I have people buying 4 and 5, and then their friends buy 4 and 5, and I'm actually in shock. I mean, to tell you the truth, this is a hobby. It turned into a job, and and
it's the best
it does
jobs.
well. Yeah, it's great. I love to do it.
You need to make a little hand-played rack so that they can have it next to their surfboard quiver.
So when the chicks come over, too.
Yeah, so there's the hand planes.
Exactly.
And what's retail on one of these?
These retail for $150.
And they're not like a surfboard. They're not going to break, so that's the good thing.
No, they're not going to break.
Pretty indestructible.
I've had very little failure with mine. I've made close to 1,000 now, and I think I've probably fixed less than 10.
Why don't you just leave that one right here? This is my backpack.
Yeah.
I'll put it to good use. Let me have a look at this.
Now, everyone's handmade, and how do you keep the consistency?
Practice. I mean, honestly, it's crazy because I used to watch, really good surfboard shapers, and I was really always super intrigued by surfboard shape and watching those guys and figuring out how they could look at something and be, oh, and they look at the other rail and they're like right on. And I think I got finally to that point where now I look at wood, and I use the grinder, 4.5 inch angle grinder. That's how I shape all of my hand planes. So I start out with a 1 inch piece of wood. I cut it out with my bandsaw, and I take my angle grinder, and I basically carve that hand plane out of there. And it's constantly looking at rails, back and forth, measuring thicknesses, not even measuring, just eyeballing. I'm not huge into measurements. I forget which shaper I learned that from. It might have been Marlon Bacon, I think. He's like, you know what? If it's 1/8 of an inch, you're fine. No one's ever gonna know. It should look symmetric. So now I just look for symmetric. Each rail symmetric. The nose symmetric, the tail symmetric. Just so something, if I look at it, it's not completely off, and someone goes, "What did you do here?" So
it's funny you say that.
It takes a long time, but I've put a lot of time in
It's funny you say that because you say just the smallest things that you're off actually sometimes can be for the better, and not to get sidetracked, but we caught up with Kelly Slater at the Lowers event when he was in town, and he said he recalls that Tom Kern had a board that had 3 different fins. How that can happen, we'll never know, but he won bells on it, which is pretty crazy.
Was it a Maurice Cole? Is that why?
I don't know.
Possibly, because I know he made them boards that were all off.
No, it wasn't intentional.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't intentional.
I have another question, and are there risks involved? I mean, people body surfing and getting
That's
their
actually
shoulders.
a big thing, and it's something, if I can hold this for 1 second, I know you want to hold on to it, but if straps are too tight, I mean, I don't tell people to use leashes. For one, because you switch from one hand to the other. If I'm going left, I use it in left hand. If I'm going right, I switch it to the right hand. It should be snug enough to where it's not going to just come off, but I should be able to switch quickly if I decide, if I'm on an A-frame and I couldn't tell you which way I'm going to go. The other thing is, if a wave rips at your arm, you want it to be loose enough where it's just going to go with the wave. Yeah, you're going to have to go find it, and you might lose it. It's rare. I think I've only had 2 people lose their hand plane for good. They could never find it again. But there is a risk, and that's why you don't want to use a big hand plane in big waves, because it will literally rip your shoulder, rip your arm off. When you're doing big waves, big hollow waves like Wedge or Pipeline, you're going to want a small hand plane that ends right at the end of your hand, basically, because you don't need that torque going into your shoulder, your wrist, your elbow, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's an inherent risk, but it's pretty rare that anybody gets hurt.
Well, thank you very much, Gary.
No problem.
And your website for the viewers?
www.brownfishhandplanes.com.
brownfishhandplanes.com. Check them out. I'm going to check them out. Yeah. And right now we're going to check in with Brett Simpson, who we caught up with down at the Lowers event. And it's a little insight from one of the best in the world, Huntington Beach's finest, Brett Simpson. And coming up next after that, Tyler Calloway from FCS. Stay with us here in Del Mar, California.